Lance Hall here for Let's Discuss with Lance Hall. Happy to welcome Tim King of Embryonic Autopsy to the program tonight. Tim, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I am doing really, really good. I got to tell you, as I was listening to this album, the first thought that came to me is I don't often listen to death metal, but when I do, I listen to Embryonic Autopsy.
I love that. I
Yeah,
love that.
great stuff. Second album, Origins of the Deformed, follows up Prophecies of the Conjoined, which came out in 2022. The album came out just recently on Massacre Records. I guess I'll ask you the age-old question that often gets asked. You like have your entire life to do your first album. Second album is kind of like, when you're trying to follow up. Did you have any trouble with anything, or did everything just flow naturally?
Well, with this, the funny story about Embryonic is it started off as a bit of a side project because my main band Soil, which I've been in for 27 years, and before that I was in a death metal band called Oppressor
Hmm.
back in the 90s, and my guitar tech for Soil, his name's Scott Roberts. He plays guitar in Embryonic.
Sure.
He said to me, he's like, "Listen, man, would you ever think about getting back into death metal? I've got all these songs that I've been working on, and I was wondering if you'd be, into playing on them." And I'm like, "Man, I haven't sang in so many years death metal style. I don't, know how it would sound." So I was like, "You know what? Sure, I'll give it a crack." And we just started popping off these songs, and that's how the first record came about.
Hmm.
So and all of a sudden we got a record deal out of it. We got tours out of it. The metal community really started to embrace it, and all these old Oppressor fans started coming out of the woodwork and supporting it and stuff like that, and it was crazy. So what we actually did was made it a real band. We grabbed a bass player and a full-time drummer and all that, and we started touring and doing that. So when it came time to do the second record, it was actually a lot a lot more involved. We sat down, we got to work together on the songs. We had to write them all together as a band. And, we went heavier, and I went more disgusting, more gross with the lyrics. And we just decided to take everything up a notch. And it really allowed for us to see what worked and what didn't work on the first record to do it on the second. So, I mean, a lot of times you fall into that, what they call the sophomore slump,
Yeah.
where you're kind of like, oh man, how are we going to recreate what we did on this first record, because we had so much time to do it, like you were saying. But with the second one, it was like a almost like the opposite, because we were able to do everything that we wanted to do on the first record on the second record, and I think it really shows. It's definitely a more mature record, and we really did every single thing that we thought we could have done differently on the first one. We were able to go back and do it on this new one.
Yeah. So you gave us a little bit of background as to how Scott and you got together to form the band. Give us a little background on your bass player and your drummer. You say you recruited some people. Who'd you get? Did you know them from before? Are they brand new to you, or?
No, actually, Scott's responsible for that. He started putting up some ads on some musician forums, and the drummer Marco came about right away. And he sent an audition tape playing to some of the songs off the first record, and he was just, I mean, destroying them. I mean, I call Marco my rubber man, because the way he grinds, I'm like, I don't even know how you can play that fast, because it's just it's so crazy. We had to, in order to find the person to find on the play on the first record, this guy Arknad Krakawa, we had to find, he lives in the Ukraine, and he's just like an inhuman drummer. So we didn't know if we were going to be able to find somebody that would be able to play like that. And sure enough, Marco was able to do it, and he actually can play the stuff faster than that, if you can believe that. But
Wow.
and then Kenzie, we were looking for a bass player, but we kind of wanted to go like almost the way that Bolt Thrower did back in the 90s, where they had a bass player which was a female named Joe
Mm.
Bench. And we kind of just wanted to shift things up a little bit. Instead of having just four ugly dudes, we wanted to at least put a little bit of flavor into the mix. And we actually were seeking out a female bass player, and
Yeah.
there were a couple that just didn't fit the part. And then Scott found Kenzie, and the funny thing is she thought that it was like a scam, like he was trying to like Fisher, catfish her or
Yeah.
find out she thought it was a complete scam until she came to band practice and actually, you know, got to meet us and see that this thing was for real. Because he's like, yeah, we have a record deal. We, you know, Tim's from, Soil and Oppressor. I used to be in this band OTEP, and she thought it was like this total like somebody was trying to get something out of it until she actually discovered it was real. And she just came in and you know blasted it out, and she's been awesome. She's definitely our anchor of the band, because the rest of us, I mean, even as long as I've been doing it, still act like a child from time to time just because that's how musicians act. But she's definitely like the adult. She's the youngest person in the band by far, and she acts more like an adult than all three of the rest of us combined. So it's the perfect synergy that we have in the band.
Yeah.
So we were really lucky to find four people that really, gel together, play well together, and get along great. Not only musically but personally. And the lineup's been fantastic ever since we assembled it.
That's really cool. Now, I was researching a little bit, and you spoke in one interview how with this band you liked it because you're a bass player by trade, but with Kenzie now playing bass, it opened you up to sing. You could just concentrate on singing as opposed to playing bass and singing. Do you consider yourself more of a bass player who sings or a singer who plays bass?
I mean, I started off on the viola of all things, and then went to bass. So I've always been a bass player at heart. And in Oppressor, which was our first death metal band that I was in, we didn't have a singer. And it's one of those snap decisions when you're 18 years old. You just raise your hand like, I'll do it. So I was just like a bass player that sang. And doing double duty like that, you always have to be pushing and pulling with what you're doing. You have to throttle back on bass to accentuate vocals. You have to kind of throttle back on the vocal lines to play some bass parts and stuff. And in Soil, I just did background vocal. I just do background vocals, so it's primarily bass. So with this, it's definitely I feel naked up there without holding anything, because I usually have a bass that I can hide behind.
Right.
But I've been playing and doing music for so long, it kind of came naturally. And I sang in Oppressor, but it really gives me a lot more freedom to get a lot of screams and try different vocal techniques and different pitches and different things. And there's things you can do when you're holding a mic as opposed to playing an instrument and singing to it. Like you can get some sort of different vocal inflections if you kind of cup the mic a little bit or angle it a different way when you're singing, that you're just restricted to not be able to do when you're holding an instrument and something's on a boom stand. So I've been really able to get a lot of cool sounds and different inflections and stuff that I previously wouldn't have been able to do. So it's definitely a cool change of pace. And I'm not going to lie, walking on an airplane with a microphone bag or walking into a venue and just carrying a microphone as opposed to amps and guitars and basses and all is the greatest thing on the face of the planet.
You get to travel a little lighter,
Absolutely. I now I know where that lead singer disease saying comes from.
Yeah. I want to jump into a couple of the songs that I listened to and talk about them in the video. Like, we'll start with track one, "The Dripping in the Vaginal Nectar." Love the video. Started a performance video. That place looks a little creepy. Was it like an old warehouse or something?
Of all things, it's a dairy farm.
Really?
And the video director, he's actually done. We've done 6 videos now, and he's done all 6. His name's Jason Moit, and he's a very good friend. And he's fantastic at what he does. He actually tracked down. He was looking for locations, and a friend of his, their family owns a dairy farm. So he's like, it's going to be muddy. It's going to smell really bad. There's going to be cows all over the place. And sure enough, I mean, we might as well have called it like dripping in the vaginal manure, because it's just like we're walking around and there's just like cow crap everywhere, and like it flies and it stunk. I mean, it was definitely the perfect location for a death metal video.
Yeah.
And then so we got to walk around, get a thing of it, and get to see all the little calves being born and all this crazy stuff. But we filmed it up in one of the barn lofts.
Wow.
And it was I definitely wore a pair of crappy boots on it. If you look real close, You can see that they're sort of crappy boots, and they turned out to be super crappy, no pun intended, at the
Right.
end of that. And I just tossed them in the garbage afterwards. But it was the perfect place for a death metal video. Definitely creepy, eerie, and filthy as can be. So
Yeah. I got to ask that if there were there animals nearby? Animals react to music. How did the animals react to hearing, death metal cranked out for as long as it took to do the video?
well, I definitely saw like a lot of poop coming out of them. So I don't know if we scared them or what, but I mean, literally, we had to stop a couple of shots because they were coming up to see what was going on and coming up and trying to like lick the cameras and stuff. So it was kind of weird.
Yeah. Song also features a solo by one of your guest players, Jack Owen, on there. Killer solo. You guys have a couple of guest players that came in on this album. Must be pretty cool to be able to do that as well.
Yeah, it was really awesome. In all my years of listening to death metal, and I never stopped listening to death metal. It's always been my favorite form of music, and I kept in contact with all those people, for all the years. And to be able to have, James Murphy, who's one of my favorite guitar players of all time, to play three solos on the new record, and Jack Owen, who we've toured with Cannibal Corpse back in the day, and Oppressor, and I've become friends with him, over the years, and to have him do two solos, and Terrence from Suffocation, who was a huge influence on me death metal wise, to have him play a solo on this record and the last. I mean, it's just been a real treat to see these friends and people that I not only call friends but actually admire skill wise in the scene, to be able to guest star on a record has been fantastic.
Yeah. Now there's sort of a theme here that you've continued with this album from the first album of like alien human hybrids. This is where you get into it with the orgies of the inseminated. You're like a longtime horror slash sci-fi kind of guy, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I love that sort of stuff, and I've always been fascinated with, you know, how the pyramids were built, how the Aztecs and the Incas and the Egyptians, how they had such uh so many like, crazy like symbolisms and architectural type things that we have a hard time being even able to recreate today with even all the technology we have now, and they had virtually no technology back then. So I've always wondered and questioned, did were they visited by aliens and had alien help with it, and then they left and left them to their technology, and those civilizations crumbled, and was the thing that really happened at Roswell a reality, and are they hiding that, and how did all of a sudden we go from when we were kids a rotary phone and rabbit ear TVs to cell phones that you can take a picture and send it to somebody in Japan in 5 seconds, and the way technology is really built up and stuff. So all those kind of conspiracy things, mysteries and stuff, and that those things that I've always been intrigued of, along with just loving sci-fi and horror movies and stuff. I really wanted to make Embryonic Autopsy just something more of a like a story to tell, and some things to get kind of horror themed and grotesque on, and kind of put like a horror, like a X-Files meets I don't know, X-Files meets Terrifier 2 onto
Oh my God,
onto
yeah.
a music setting, just gory, blood, guts, crazy, insane, with a weird conspiracy twist to it. So it was something that I have really enjoyed, kind of storytelling to it,
Yeah, yeah. I
to
mean,
where with
go ahead. I'm
oh
sorry.
well, I was just going to say, with Oppressor, I was obsessed with trying to basically talk about all the cruelties and things that were going on in the world and trying to save the world. Back then I was a vegetarian, and I was fighting for equal rights, and fighting for uh the homeless and people to be heard, and the underdog and stuff, trying to change the world, and things of that nature, really getting into the downfall of humanity and stuff like that, and trying to make a difference. And with this one, I'm kind of like, I kind of got I did that with Oppressor. This time, let's have a little bit more fun with it and be a little less serious than I was before, and let's make a horror film, and set it to music.
Yeah, great stuff. I mean, I remember back, in the '70s reading all those Chariots of the Gods books and stuff like that, and And then, like you mentioned, Terrifier 2. I never rooted for a clown to get killed so badly in my life as I did when I
Oh,
watched that movie. I'm like, will something kill this friggin' clown?
it's
But,
insane. I was just
um,
watching that movie the other day again, and I was just like, man, this movie is just brutal.
yeah,
But
yeah, I agree. Um, let's get into. I love the ways at times, like I'm going to jump down to spewed forth into chunks. I like the sort of like atmospheric opening. You kind of got that little bit of a breather, and then it's like full on blitzkrieg. Brilliant stuff. And you did that on same with the conjoined must perish. I like the outro on that one. You kind of had that fade out outro after the machine gun like opening. It was almost like a flip flop. Great couple of songs right there. I love them both.
oh, thanks so much. I can attribute that all to Scott, our guitar player, because he was the one that really did 99% of all the music on this new record, to where I focused in on all the lyrics and vocal patterns and stuff. But we just we talked about it together, and we just really wanted to make uh something that you could absorb yourself into. Like, the record from start to finish would have this really nice even flow, as to if you were watching a movie. And if you listen to the whole thing from front to beginning, you kind of take a journey through
Yeah.
like different kind of emotions and different set patterns musically and stylistically. And we just really wanted to also get back to with the whole purpose of this band was the 90s style death metal that we both grew up on and got us into it. There's so many of those 808 bass drops, and the singing mixed with the super heavy vocals nowadays, and people kind of going that deathcore route. We just nothing wrong with that. I love a lot of bands in that genre and stuff, but we just really wanted to go just brutality, in your face, old school, intros, outros, cool effects without overdoing them. And that's what we set out to do. I'm really glad that you caught on to that, and that you enjoyed it as well.
Definitely. And that's what you mentioned, like watching a movie. I did not see when I got down to Curse of Madame Pele, I did not see an instrumental coming. But as I'm listening to it, I'm like, okay, now we're getting the closing credits.
Exactly. Well, I'm glad. That's amazing that you put that two and two together on there. That's exactly the way we kind of uh envisioned it, as like
Yeah.
like a closing credit type thing to kind of end the record, and just kind of just sit there like, wow, what did I just experience right here? What
Yeah.
the hell was this?
Yeah. I just like I was like, holy shit, because I looked up Madame Pele and it's tied to the goddess of volcano and fire and the creator of the Hawaiian Islands. I'm like, okay, and I read the story behind Cleopatra's spawn. I'm like, okay, and I'm getting ready for this, you know, to be assaulted one more time. And all of a sudden I get this nice instrumental. I'm like, okay, all right, no, I get this now though. It was cool, very cool.
That's really cool. I appreciate that. I Hawaii's my favorite place on earth, and I've been there many a times. So it's like I always heard about the the Madame Pele, and the goddess of Hawaii, and how she watched over the island, and people would take lava rock, as souvenirs, but they'd have bad luck start happening to them. So year after year, Hawaii gets hundreds of thousands of pounds of lava rock sent back to them with an apology letter to Madame Pele, which I thought was a really, I always thought it was a really cool thing,
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to write a song. Oh, excuse me. Like I said, I'm getting over a horrible cold. I'm
Yeah.
coughing all over
Summertime
your
colds suck.
radio, coughing all over your radio station here. But
Well, I don't know if you're picking up on it or not, but I've got a dog up here on the bed with me, and she's like rolling every while, making all kinds of grunting and groaning sounds. I don't know if you're picking up on it. If anybody hears that, that's what it is. It's just my dog.
oh, I thought you were just really enjoying the interview. Then
Having a good time, and I think she is too. But um, so we talked about the music. You talked about the lyrics. I got to confess, I my daytime job, I work in a grocery store, so I went into the meat room and I'm telling the guys about this interview I've got. And I'm like, listen to these, let me read you these lyrics, because hey, they're in their cutting meat anyway, so they're used to stuff like this. So I read them, dissolving in acidic afterbirth. I'm like, he put it in, stuck it in. It was so beautifully decrepit. Before the bloody rod was dissolving, melting, it did begin. It was all caked with skin. It took the vaginal canal and it destroyed everything, dissolving, everything, dissolving. And the one kid looks at me, he's like, what is that? You know? So for my buddy Travis, can you give us a little bit of background on that particular verse? You know, where did you come up with the idea with that and everything, you know?
Oh, that's so funny. I mean, again, it's just to tie in the whole thing, uh, I always wanted to make a song called Embryonic Autopsy. In fact, I had that in my head for, 10 odd years. And when it came time to naming the band, uh, and doing this album and stuff, I'm like, man, I'm going to revisit that. And it turned out there's never a band named Embryonic Autopsy. I can't believe it, because you can pick any name or any combination, and there's something out there that
Right.
usually is that same thing. And this wasn't used, so it was kind of like a light shown down. It's like, let's call the band that. And then me and Scott were talking, and we're both into the alien human hybrid theories and all these, the Egyptians and the Mayan type stuff, and how the pyramids were built and things like that. So it just tied in with the whole concept of the embryos, and starting off at that stage, and how these genetic experiments gone wrong with humans trying to take this alien DNA and combine it with that of humans to make a super hybrid alien human being, but things going terribly wrong, and different types of things happening as they unlock the new technology and stuff. So there's really no big huge elaborate story behind it, or something that I can tell you how it's like this big story.
Yeah.
I just kind of wanted to gross people out and tie in the whole embryonic autopsy kind of creation of life,
Yeah.
giving birth to alien human hybrids, and figured how disgusting can I make it, and that's
Yeah.
pretty much about it.
Yeah. That's cool. It's cool. So, like, once again, the group is Embryonic Autopsy. The album is Origins of the Deforms. It's out right now on Master Records. You got digital copies, you got CDs, you got vinyl, which is very cool. Vinyl sales doing good for you. People with death metal usually are into that, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, it's so amazing, because you would think, in the digital age, that you know we would have seen the CD and the vinyl go the way of the dodo, but they've hung on. Especially vinyl sales have gone up so much over the past, basically since COVID.
Yeah.
Vinyl sales have gone up, and in the death metal realm, uh, CD and vinyl sales account for more than the digital sales. It's like the the death metal, black metal, extreme metal fans still like to collect that stuff, and it still means something to them to have something that they can look at the artwork and read the lyrics and look at the band photos and have that experience. And that's what I think is so special about these genres of music. Is it's not just like you're listening to a like you would nowadays, like a Metallica song, or a pop song, or something like that,
Yeah.
to where it's kind of almost a disposable song at this point, where you listen to it, you're on to the next. And in the more underground things, people like to support it. They like to buy it. They like to have it in their collection. They like to look at it and have that experience of an album and the artwork, and things that we used to do when we were younger. Is
Yeah.
I'd buy an album, and I'd listen to it, and then I'd listen to it again, and I'd flip through and read the lyrics while I was listening to it, and then I'd look at the liner credits, and then I'd look at the artwork while I was listening to it, and just that experience that you get from listening to an album and absorbing yourself into it. And
Yeah.
it's really cool how uh like I said, the death metal, black metal, extreme metal genres still embrace that.
Yeah.
And the sales on the last record were great for a debut band coming out of nowhere.
Yeah.
We didn't have a Facebook page, or any social media up, or anything. We hadn't even played one show when we got the Massacre Records deal. So we literally built the band up and built everything up from there. And to see everybody kind of embrace it, and even get more into it the second time around. I mean, the latest video we put out, Cleopatra Spawn, has been out since last Friday, which is 4 days now, and
Yeah.
it's already up to over 35,000 views. I mean,
That's
it's
cool.
just amazing to see, the fans we already have embracing it, and then people talking about it, and embracing it so much over the last few days, and it's still climbing. So we're
Yeah.
really excited about this record, and we're really thankful for everybody that's embraced it so far. It hasn't even been out a week yet, and it's doing fantastic so far. And I'm going to knock on some wood that it keeps on doing that, so I don't jinx anything. But things have been going really well, and
That's awesome.
you know, it's so cool to see, you know, like someone like yourself tell me, wow, you know, this is what I thought you guys were going for, and it be the exact thing that we were going for. You like understood it and got where we were coming from right away. I mean, that's so cool to hear. I mean, you made my day by telling me that, because it proves that it's not just some sort of cryptic thing that we did ourselves and that nobody understands, you know.
I appreciate it. You know, funny thing you mentioned, I want to do a little "This Is Your Life" thing with you now. You mentioned how many views the video's gotten. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. You went to John, is it Hersey High School?
Correct. Yeah.
Out there. Steve Chen, one of the co-founders of YouTube, went to that school.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow.
Along with Bill Glass, who plays Dr. Rick in the Progressive Insurance commercials. You know, the guy who's always telling the parents how to live.
Oh wow. Who would have known John Hersey High School produced so many interesting people.
Yeah. And the other thing, they had a list of, you know, like notary alumnus. I was bummed I didn't find your name in it, but I found this other guy named Ben Weasel, who was in this band called Screeching Weasel. It was like a punk band or something. Is that?
Oh yeah, Screeching Weasel was gigantic out here. And when I went to Hersey, I was the quiet kid.
Okay.
I kind of just kept to myself. I was never in any activities. You know, I had on my, you know, Megadeth. I had on my jean jacket with my Megadeth back patch and hung out with my friends, and that was about it from my days at Hersey. But yeah, Screeching Weasel was like a really big to do. They used to have such a big name out here. It was crazy.
Well, the other thing I read is that they're well known for music stuff, and they had this band director there. His name was like Don Caneva, I think, who's gotten like a John Philip Sousa award and all this stuff. So you weren't involved in any of the band stuff that went on there at all?
No, I had a band in high school when I was there, but you know, we played, you know, the local circuit and stuff, but we never really did anything. It wasn't until it wasn't, I mean, I always, like I said, I always just kind of kept out of all the school activities and just got through everything. I was never much of a one to participate in that. I kind of did my homework, you know, got my B average, you know, figured out what I wanted to do when I was outside of school. I was never much of a activities person there while I was there. In fact, I barely remember anything from high school, you know.
All right, well, let's jump forward a little bit. Southern Illinois University of Carbondale. There was a punk venue there I read about called Lost Cross. Did you ever frequent that at all? Were you much into the punk scene that was available there?
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty much, I really loved, you know, as far as punk goes, I mean, naturally, like the Sex Pistols, the Dead Kennedys, loved the Ramones, you know, like the Dead Milkmen were a punk band that I really liked and stuff. I mean, I was never quite that much into punk because punk was always very sloppy to me, but it had that attitude and that really cool edge to it. I've always been somebody that I started off totally like into, you know, hair metal, like Motley Crue and Ozzy and Dokken and, you know, Cinderella and Striper and all that, Wasp and all those bands. And then I discovered, you know, Metallica, Megadeth, Anthrax, Slayer, Nuclear Assault. And then I got into like Obituary, Napalm Death, Deicide, Morbid Angel, and then just kind of never went back from there. And then, you know, when we formed, you know, the band Soil and stuff and got our major label deal and all that, you know, got kind of back to my roots and started listening to more of like your Metallicas and, you know, Black Sabbath and Corrosion of Conformity and things like that. And that's where I kind of got into some of the more mainstream bands, you know, like I really like Godsmack and Shinedown and stuff like that. But I never let go of my death metal roots. It's like during the whole time that I've been, you know, playing in the, you know, the mainstream rock realm, still always bought that. I always buy the new Morbid Angel record when it comes out, the new Obituary record when it comes out, when there's a new Carcass, you know, record coming out, I'm the first in line, you know, My Dying Bride, all that. I never really lost touch with that scene, which is why I'm so glad to be back in it. It feels like I never left, and it really made me realize, you know, how close knit and cool that entire scene is, you know, being back in the swing of things with it.
Yeah. I'm cursing myself, Tim, for not upgrading my Zoom plan. I got about 9 minutes left, and I wanted to ask you some fun, silly questions. But before I do that, is there anything in the interview involving the band, the album, the release, anything that we didn't chat about? I didn't ask you, something you didn't get in that you would like to get in?
Nope, I'm ready for the silly stuff.
All right, silly questions. All right, I'll start with the obvious. Go-to movie for Halloween. Go-to horror movie for Halloween.
I mean, it's always been the Halloween franchise. I love all those. I love the Halloween movie franchise, but I got to say that Terrifier 2 movie really struck me recent times. I
Yeah,
think that's going to be my new go-to one. Can't wait for part 3.
I agree. I agree. That one took it home for me as well. If you could speak any language instantly, what language would you pick?
Definitely Spanish. And I took 2 years of Spanish at John Hersey High School, where we were talking about earlier,
Mhm.
and I don't remember a damn word of it except for the swears.
Okay. If you could pick a television show to have a song from the new album placed in, what TV show would you pick?
Oh, I mean, definitely something CSI or
Okay,
Law and Order. I think would be pretty cool.
cool. Given your choice of household chores, do you go with dishes or laundry?
Oh, I do laundry maybe once a month. In fact, being a touring musician, I have enough underwear to last 8 weeks if need be. So it definitely dishes because I never do laundry.
Give us an item that decorated your teenage bedroom.
Oh, uh, Motley Crue Shout at the Devil poster. That was my first one that I put up. And my mom actually looked at Vince Neil and said, "It's really cool that you're getting into liking women and stuff, but this girl's a little odd looking." I said, "Mom, that's Vince Neil from Motley Crue." And she said, "Oh," and walked out of the room.
All right, speaking of mom, if you could go back in time to your childhood and have your mother cook one of your favorite uh, dinners, what would you have her make?
The best her thing that she always made amazingly were stuffed peppers, and her chicken and rice soup were two of my favorites.
Oh, very cool. Favorite cartoon character?
Oh boy, I'm gonna have to go with Mr. T
Okay.
when he had his cartoon series.
What is the oddest job you've ever held?
Hmm. Uh, I never really had an odd job, but I did have one that you would never think would be me. I used to manage a customer service department for VTech Toys,
Wow.
and it was the children's toy company, and I was the manager of the customer service department. So I'd have to talk to moms and kids all day long trying to fix their toys and get them sorted out.
Talk
And
about
here
a
I am,
thankless
and here
job,
I am
you know?
talking about ripping fetuses out of the womb and
Yeah,
dripping in vaginal nectar and all
exactly.
that.
Oh, wow. Favorite old school wrestler?
Oh, Hulk Hogan by far.
Hulk Hogan.
I got to meet him and get a picture too in later years, and he's cool
Oh,
as hell.
that's awesome. All right, last one. This is the one we have the most fun with. If they were to make a biopic of your life, what actor would you pick to play you? And it's your movie, your life. You can pick anybody.
I would love Johnny Depp to play me.
You know, he's like the number one answer to most people that I ask that question.
Really? That's so
Yeah,
funny.
yeah,
I just think he's so quirky and so like he's so fluid as an actor that he could pretty much kind of take on a role and kind of do almost anybody justice. He's a marvel to me.
yeah. Very cool. I got about 5 minutes, Tim. If we'll get back to music with this one. If a young person were to come to you today and say, "Mr. King, I really want to form a band, you know, and make music my life," what advice would you give them?
Uh I definitely wouldn't give the Dave Mustaine answer of don't do it because who am I to tell anybody not to do it? The only thing I would say is, you know, find a form of music that you love and, stick to that. Don't do anything because you think it's going to make you rich or get you girls or get you guys or get you whatever you're looking to do. Make sure it's a form of music that's true to your heart. Don't give up on it. It doesn't matter what people tell you about whether you can do it or you can't do it. And you got to find people that are like-minded to go in your band with. Otherwise, you're never going to make it because you can be the most 100% dedicated, devoted person. But if you surround yourself with a bunch of morons, you're never going to get anywhere because all it does is take one weak link in the chain to break it.
Yeah.
So I've always been, in my career, I wouldn't say I'm the most talented musician out there by any means. I'm not the worst, but I'm definitely not some virtuoso. I get by and I'm creative and all, but I surround myself with good people and great people with as my fellow musicians, and that we've all got each other's back and we all have the same drive. So that's a winning combination right there. Is, you know, pick a style that, number one, pick a style of music that you love and stick with it. Find like-minded people that you can trust and that share the same vision and drive that you have, and never take no for an answer.
Cool. Thank you very much. We've been chatting with Tim King here. The band is Embryonic Autopsy. The album is Origins of the Deformed. It's out now on Massacre Records. And go out if you like death metal. This is death metal for people who love death metal, and I highly recommend it.
Awesome. Well, thank you
Tim,
so much for the interview. I really enjoyed it.
thank you, and I appreciate your time as well. Going forward, may all your travels be safe. May all your gigs be sold out.
Awesome. As Ricky Rackman used to say, keep one foot in the gutter and one fist in the gold.
There you go. Have a good rest of your evening.
Thanks, buddy. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
you. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.